projected toward a fixed point. So this is a oscillator. In case of atom nucleus, we have electron revolves around the nucleus. So how you can say that electron is oscillating? Because it is revolving, it is not oscillating. So how we can apply this quantization condition on electron? So let us see how we can apply. So you know that electron revolves around the nucleus. Suppose here is the electron. Now this is the radius. Now let's say this electron makes an angle theta with the origin and with velocity v, it is revolving. So if we see the projection of this electron, so the projection of this electron on this axis will be this much. Let's say this is q. Q is the projection of this electron on this axis. Suppose after some time electron is here. Now the value of its projection will be, now it's, let me make it very clear. Now its position is, projection is reducing. Suppose after some time electron is here, then its projection is 0. Now electron is here, then again it has a value of its projection. Now electron is here, then its value of its projection is decreasing, and if it goes here, then the projection becomes negative in value, and if here, then the projection has this value. So if I make a graph between the projection with time, then what you will have, initially electron was here. Suppose electron starts its motion from here, then projection was 0. Let us, this represents, this axis represents time and this axis represents projection, the magnitude of projection. When electron comes here, then its projection is here. After that, here its projection, in this manner its projection is decreasing. So can you say that its projection was initially, its projection, this, when electron was here, then its projection was maximum. So initially its projection was maximum, after that it decreases, and here it vanishes. Here it vanishes. After that it again increases, and after that again it decreases. And now here it again increases in negative direction and again decreases. So can you say that the value of the magnitude is oscillating? It is increasing, attain its positive maximum, then decreasing, then attain its negative maximum, then again increasing. So we can say that the projection of electron is oscillating, or we can say that electron is an oscillator. So in this manner we can relate electron with the oscillator, and if it is oscillator, it will radiate energy, and that energy will follow the Planck's quantization law of energy. So this is how electron is considered as an oscillating charged particle in this manner, and Planck's law is applicable on the electron. So now we will derive this law with the help of Wilson-Sommerfeld quantization law. So it will be easy for you now to understand and to correlate things with each other. Next we are going to derive this law of Planck's quantization. Planck's quantization law by Wilson-Sommerfeld condition. By Wilson-Sommerfeld condition. We are going to derive how energy is equals to h nu dash, nh nu dash, by using the condition. The condition of Wilson-Sommerfeld condition is, you know, that pi dqi is equals to nh, over closed integral. Closed integral means the area of phase space, pi dqi. I will explain this later. So first, let us, you know that the system of energy of oscillator, what will be the total energy? Total energy will be its kinetic energy plus its potential energy. And kinetic energy, if you are, suppose you are taking along the x coordinate, then the kinetic energy, you know that we can write kinetic energy px square over 2m, and potential energy is, in case of oscillator, half kx square, where k is force constant and k is equals to m omega square. So we can write its potential energy as half of m omega square x square p x square over 2m. So this is the total energy of the system. Now if we divide this equation with E on both sides, then what we will have, let us write in more simpler form, px square over 2me plus m. Let us make this coordinate here x square. We can write x square over 2e by m omega square, right? We can represent in this manner. So if you can see, we can relate this equation with the equation of ellipse. This represents the equation of ellipse with coordinates px and x. If you remember, x square over a square plus y square over b square is equals to 1, where a and b are semi-major and semi-minor axes of the ellipse. So in this case we have a is equals to 2me and b is equals to 2e over m omega square under the root. So this is the value of a and b. You also know that area of ellipse, this is a ellipse with coordinates px and x. So we can make this ellipse here x coordinate and this is px coordinate. So this is not a two-dimensional Cartesian coordinate. This is a phase space coordinates. Phase space is a different concept. This is not a Cartesian plane. So in case of phase space we have ellipse, and this is a and this is b. Value of a is equals to under the root 2me, and the value of b is equals to 2e over m omega square under the root. So this is the value of a and b. What will be the area? Area of ellipse. Area of ellipse, you know that. What is it? Pi AB. So we will write pi AB. So pi a and b. So we will have pi. The value of a is under the root 2me. The value of b is 2e over m omega square. Now solving this, we have pi, 2 is out, m is cancelled, 2e over omega. Omega is angular frequency. We can write 2 pi nu dash. Omega is 2 pi nu dash. So this is the area of ellipse. And now we are using pi dqi is also giving us area from the condition, Wilson-Sommerfeld condition. What Wilson-Sommerfeld condition says? Closed integral of pi dqi by Wilson-Sommerfeld condition, we have px dx or closed integral is equals to nh. So this is nothing but the area of this ellipse, px into dx. So we can equate both these two equations from equation 1 and 2, and we can write nh is equals to 2e pi over 2 pi nu dash. 2 pi cancelled. We have E is equals to nh nu dash. So this is nothing but Planck's condition on energy, Planck's energy quantization law. So we have derived Planck's energy quantization with the help of Wilson-Sommerfeld quantization condition. Next we will derive Bohr's quantization of angular momentum from this condition of Wilson and Sommerfeld. Next is Bohr's quantization condition. Bohr's quantization condition by Wilson-Sommerfeld condition. So we are using this for an electron revolving in a circular orbit. Suppose this electron is here with r distance, m mass, with v velocity, making an angle theta. So what we can write here, theta is a coordinate. So now we will apply the quantization condition on theta. So what will the conjugate momentum to theta will be p theta. So we can write closed integral over p theta d theta is equals to nh, and you also know that integration of d theta, theta is complete 2 pi. So we can write p theta 2 pi is equals to nh. So this is nothing but p theta is equals to nh cut. This is angular momentum. P theta is angular momentum. So this is the quantization condition of angular momentum. So we have derived this condition with the help of Wilson-Sommerfeld quantization condition. So in this manner we have derived both the condition using Wilson-Sommerfeld condition. Next we will see de Broglie's interpretation to explain Bohr's quantization condition. So this is clear, I think. If there is any query, you can ask. Comment box is there, you can ask there. Next is de Broglie's interpretation. Next is de Broglie's interpretation of Bohr's quantization condition. So you know that de Broglie gave a condition. De Broglie gave a concept of matter waves. De Broglie said that every matter has a wave character associated with it. Every matter has a wave associated with it. So as electron contains mass, so there should be a wave associated with electron. And wave associated means the wavelength. And he gave a condition. He said if there is a wave associated with any particle of mass m with v velocity, it is moving, then the wavelength of that particle will be lambda is equals to h over p, where h is Planck's constant. So this is given by de Broglie. He said that lambda will be h by p for any particle that have a wave associated with it. This will be the wavelength. So if he said that if Bohr is saying electron is revolving in a circular and stationary orbit, and as well as that those radius are non-radiating. Electron while revolving in those orbits will not radiate any kind of radiations. So in that manner, electron will trace a wave. So what will be the shape? Let us try to understand. So he said that electron is associated with stationary waves. While revolving in circular orbits, circular fixed orbits. Electron is associated with a stationary wave while revolving in a circular fixed orbit. So he said that if suppose electron is in its then the wave associated with this will be like this for n is equals to 1. This concept is according to de Broglie. तो अपना दिमाग इसमें ना ही लगाएं, डी ब्रोगली के अकॉर्डिंग है ये, समझ में आएगा, अभी आएगा. सेकेंड ऑर्बिट के लिए इफ यू सी फॉर सेकेंड ऑर्बिट n is equals to 2, we have this type of shape. This type of wave is associated with n is equals to 2 case. For n is equals to 3, n is equals to 3, we have this type of shape of wave. This was the concept according to de Broglie. If electron is revolving in its first orbit, this type of wave will be traced out by this, and in second orbit and in third orbit this. And these waves are stationary waves. Stationary means standing waves. These waves are, electron is revolving but it seems this is stationary. There is no propagation, but it is revolving. So this is the nature of stationary wave. And he said that the wavelength of this electron will be integral multiple of the total distance covered by, that is 2 pi r will be, means the wavelength is complete wavelength, not half wavelength. Here is one wavelength, here is two wavelengths, here is three wavelengths. So wavelength will not be in partitions. There is a condition on wavelength. Wavelength is fixed. Suppose if we have not a complete wavelength, suppose this is half part, suppose it starts from here and it is not ending here, it will then what will happen? If this is not the case, then what will happen? So if this is not the case, then it will not vanish here, so it will go like this, again it will go like this. So in this manner there will be phase differences in the next revolution. This wave is traced in a single revolution of electron, and electron is revolving continuously. You know that the speed of electron is 1/137 times speed of light. So this is very high speed. So this is in one revolution, and if there is this is not an integral wavelength, then there will be phase difference in second revolution, and if there is phase difference, then these waves will interfere, and if they will interfere, their intensity will be 0, and if intensity is 0, then there is no wave. So the concept of wave is vanished. So this has to happen. So this is the condition given by de Broglie. So from this condition he said that, you know that lambda is lambda is h over p. So we can write h over p is mv. So 2 pi r. This is, we can write 2 pi is here. So we can write mvr is equals to nh cut. So this is the quantization of angular momentum. This is nothing but quantization of angular momentum. So this is the picture presented by de Broglie. So this is de Broglie, how de Broglie interpreted Bohr's quantization condition. So in this manner he interpreted Bohr's quantization condition. So next is our last topic of today's lecture is Bohr's correspondence principle. So let us write Bohr's correspondence principle. There is one lecture left. After that we will do some numericals and previous year questions on this topic. Next is, last topic is Bohr's correspondence principle. Bohr's correspondence principle. So let me first write what this principle says. If the value of n becomes large, then the classical frequency then the quantum frequency, it will be more appropriate to write the word quantum frequency. Then the quantum frequency, then the quantum if the value of n becomes large, then the quantum frequency will become equal to classical frequency. So this is the Morse correspondence principle. Let me explain now. Morse, as its name indicating, correspondence principle. So it will give a correspondence, a connection between the classical frequency and the quantum frequency. So we know that classically how the electron will radiate energies. Classically, a charged particle, whenever charged particle oscillates, it will emit radiations, and the frequencies that it will emit were given by frequency. We have the formula for frequency 1 upon time period classically. So we can find the frequency classically, but quantum mechanically, how we get the frequency? We know that whenever a transition from higher level to lower level took place, then there will be a emission of radiations, and the frequency corresponding to that emission will be the energy difference between the transition levels, from whatever levels we have the transitions. So this is how the definition of classical and quantum frequencies. So now you will see this principle states, if the value of n becomes very large, means if principal quantum number is very large, then the quantum frequency will be equal to classical frequency. There will be identical results for the frequency if the value of n becomes very large. So let us see how this principle is true. So first what we are going to do in this